Hey everybody, it is Professor Parish and we are on week 4 of our ACE class. And so I've gone to week 4 here. We're basically going to go over in this video what we're doing this week. It's pretty straightforward, but also talking about the reading portion of the SAT. In last week's video, at the end, I talked about the math portion, and this week we're going to talk about the reading portion as well. So I got some notes I want to go over that with you all. But first, a quick run through what we're doing this week. September 6th, I know we're right after Labor Day. We just got back. Maybe you didn't go to school on Monday. I'm assuming not. But we are meeting this afternoon on Tuesday at 4 p.m. at West Side School at Harrisburg. So the address is right here. It's 414 West Lincoln Street. We're going to go there and do some trash pickup, do some cool, fun camaraderie things, team building stuff. It's going to be great. But the only assignment that you'll have to do this week is to complete this essay, which is basically in 250 words describing what you did during your community service. Should be pretty straightforward. And then I've got a link to this week's video right here. In our textbook, there's pages 24 through 158, which is the section right after what we read in week 1, talking about the reading portion of the SAT. And then the only other assignment other than a little short essay, which should take you no time at all, you could even do it after Tuesday's class, is just to work on your community service projects. We are at the midway point of the class, if you can believe it. We're halfway through, which is crazy. So at this point, you need to be starting on your individual community service projects, getting those planned out, getting them organized. This is the midway point, so you still have a month left to do them, but I don't want you to procrastinate and wait until the last minute. Definitely get a start on them at some point. And this week since you've got such a small assignment this week is really designed for you to kind of start planning out and getting those things set in motion. Fun times! But at this point, I'm going to go over and talk about the reading SAT. And so I'm going to go back to our homepage here. And then start talking about the reading portion of the SAT. So the reading portion, I feel like students often dislike this portion because they come into it thinking that it's going to be subjective. They think, how in the world am I going to pick an answer and know what this author's intentions, tone, and attitude are? Because when we read a passage and critically think about it in the classroom, we basically are offering up our own opinions and interpretations. And as long as they're not completely opposite what the author intended, there's a lot of leeway there in subjectivity. Unlike last week when I was like, oh, well, the math portion, you do it pretty much just like you do in high school. With the reading portion, it is a little bit different than high school. And so that's what this video and my notes are going to kind of talk about, to go with you all some tips and suggestions about the reading portion of the SAT. With the reading portion, it can seem confusing sometimes because it seems like there are multiple ways to describe and interpret a question and its tone. But the SAT for the reading portion has very carefully designed its questions to have a literal objective meaning and answer. So even if it's talking about something that is related to an author's feelings about a subject, the way that the questions are worded and the way that the passages are worded will lend you to an answer, guaranteed. There's not really a subjective circumstance with it. It's as objective as it possibly can be. They have a clear, definite, and objective answer. So you're going to look at a passage on the reading portion of the SAT differently than you would a reading passage in just a standard English class. And so this video, the rest of it's going to give you some tips on how to do that. So in school, you come up with your own interpretation for reading passages, and it's fine as long as it doesn't directly contradict what the author's intentions are. But that's not applicable here. Here, you literally have to learn to read without judgment. And that can kind of be fun because you're kind of like a scientist in a sense. You're analyzing a piece of text and figuring out, how can I discern the exact meaning from it? And you don't have to worry about, abstract stuff like your own opinions in terms of how it relates to text. You're just literally trying to find out what the connotation and meaning is, or what the denotation and meaning is, right? So there are some steps to do this. You're going to have to eliminate and figure out the correct interpretation. And there's 2 ways. You can restate without changing the meaning. How can you restate something without altering its meaning? Or you can demonstrate an idea as it appears on the page. Now, every answer in the SAT reading portion is spelled out and demonstrated on the paper. So it seems too good to be true sometimes. You're like, no, there's no way. But yes, It's designed to be literal, non-arbitrary. It's going to have a right answer. It's just our job to figure out what that is. So most reading questions have this specific process, and there are 5 steps that I'm going to give you to try to figure out the answer. Step 1 is to always read the brief introduction that comes with each passage. On the page, this is where the paper starts, and there's like usually an illustration that says questions 1 through 10 are based on the following passage. That passage is what you want to read very carefully. It's going to contain critical information that is going to identify the author, its purpose, and that's probably going to be tied to the questions themselves. So always read that opening passage. Always. Number 2, the actual passage for the question, you can skim through it. Just skim through it quickly. Don't take too much time on it. Just try to get the gist of what it's about. Don't waste too much time on that passage right afterwards. 3, read the question and note the citations if there are one. If there are citations, then reread the relevant text. If the criterion is 1 line of citation, then go back a cited line. If it picks up in the middle of the sentence, go back to the beginning of the sentence and read the full sentence and start there. Now, it may also help to read 1 or 2 sentences before or after the cited text for the question, just so you kind of get an overall general reminder of what that passage is about. But it's not always necessary. Question 4, and this was probably the easiest one for me. My biggest thing with reading passages, especially if I wasn't sure, start out by eliminating the wrong answers. There's always at least one answer that you're going to look at and be like, oh, that's absolutely not it. Like you can rule that out right off the bat. You're like, nope, not it. It's the easiest thing to do for a number of reasons. 1, there's 3 times as many chances you're going to find the wrong answer first than the right one, right? It also is something that makes it easier for you to see maybe patterns in the answers, and you can see how some answers seem similar and you're like, oh, those aren't it, those can't be it. And then you've narrowed it down, right? It's helping you to narrow down and feel more confident about what that correct answer will be. And so feel confident that the choice says exactly the same thing as the text. Like your choice isn't always going to be 100% identical to the text, but if you narrow down the wrong answers first, you can pick apart the ones you absolutely know are not going to be correct. And that will help you kind of narrow down and figure out that right choice. If you can't eliminate 3 choices, then there's a mistake somewhere. Maybe the question could be gone back over. Maybe the passage itself could be reread. Something is not right if you can't eliminate the 3 wrong answers. But sometimes you can only eliminate 1 or 2, and maybe that means that we're just not being picky enough or critical enough about cutting those answers out, right? And so in those cases, you just need to maybe from there on narrow down and figure out which of the 2 answers remaining seems like it's the more likely to go along with the question and the passage. If you toss out all 4 answers, then there's definitely a problem. Maybe there needs to be like a rereading on the passage itself, or the reference is wrong. You might be reading the wrong passage with the wrong question. That's happened before. But definitely feel free to go back over the passage and over the question again. Number 5, look at the remaining choice when you've narrowed it down to 1 and say, okay, does this one fit the context of the question? And if it does, yay. If not, then eventually don't spend too much time on the questions themselves. Eventually you'll have to guess and then move on from there. But the reading portion seems like it's scary because it seems like there's going to be all these different interpretations for questions. And I know a lot of students have been like, oh, well, there could be 2 or 3 right answers. No, the SAT does definitely wants you to pick just the one. It has designed it to where there is one literal right answer. They're just going to make it to where you have to really critically read that passage and know what they're looking for in order to figure out what the answer is. But you can do it. You got this. So if you have questions about the reading portion of the SAT, please bring them up in class. Please ask them while we're out doing our volunteer hours. Bring them up for the entire group. We can talk about it together and then figure out an answer from there. But everybody's learning styles are different, and I understand that. It's that the SAT is designed this specific way, in a good way, to where you just look at the questions as literally and objectively as possible. So hopefully those tips help you with the reading section. But like I said, if you have questions, please bring them up in class and we'll talk about them as a group and figure out the best solution to help study for this portion of the SAT. So in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and I will see you all on campus for ACE this following week. Bye.